In this WrestleTalk news, is the WWE and Impact Wrestling partnership already dead? Details on more AEW stars leaving, a potential main roster call-up for Gunther, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos. Because if you don't, the Hammerstein Ballroom will riot again like they did last night when Matt Cardona won.
Support WrestleTalk!
Back in 2019, when the world was a very different place, Hiroshi Tanahashi cut a promo where he used the term Forbidden Door to promote his Wrestle Kingdom match with then AEW champion Chris Jericho. Fast forward to December 2020 and AEW blew open that Forbidden Door by announcing a partnership with Impact Wrestling that saw Kenny Omega win the Impact World title, Impact Tag Team Champions The Good Brothers appear on Dynamite regularly, and actually that was about it. They also did some work with New Japan, and that continues to this day. The Impact relationship though came to an end. But what was AEW's loss was WWE's gain. On an episode of SmackDown a few weeks ago, several names were announced for this year's Women's Royal Rumble, including former WWE stars like Summer Rae and Lita, but also Impact Knockouts champion Mickie James. Not only that, but she was announced as the Impact Knockouts champion by Pat McAfee on commentary and in a follow-up tweet by WWE's social media team. The internet was, of course, very excited about all this. WWE has been a closed set for many years. Though they did some work with NWA and ECW in the late 90s, the post-2000s have seen WWE work with themselves and themselves alone, not even mentioning other wrestling companies outside of their four sides of the ring. In fact, Ringside News reported that Vince McMahon doesn't care anymore where people are currently working if they want to do appearances with WWE. It also opened up the possibility of other questions. Who else from Impact will be in the Rumble? And will anyone from WWE go to Impact? After all, Impact World Champion Moose has given Roman Reigns an open challenge. But as the weeks have gone on though, it appears that Mickie James being in the Royal Rumble is just a one-off. Ringside News reported that WWE weren't even aware that Mickie was working for Impact when they approached her, let alone that she was a top champion there. Impact also hasn't been mentioned on TV since. This past Monday, a video package covering the career of Bobby Lashley skipped over his incredible Walking Armageddon run in Impact Wrestling, even though it would have added a lot to the character. Ringside News also added that the real reason Mickie James was actually approached to be in the Rumble in the first place is simply because WWE need 30 women to be in the match and they don't have enough. And according to Fightful Select, there are those in Impact Wrestling who are now turning down offers to be in this year's Royal Rumble, and there's an interesting commonality about those that are being asked. The former Iconics Cassie Lee and Jess McKay, who are now the Impact Knockouts Tag Champions, were approached to be in this year's Royal Rumble according to Fightful Select. However, they didn't feel it was the right time to make a WWE return in any capacity. Fightful added that Impact told them it was okay for them to appear on the show, and WWE were fine working on a similar agreement they had with Mickie James, but the two turned the offer down. Fightful adds that McKay and Lee aren't the only releases over the past 2 years who have been contacted. The key to that last sentence is that WWE are apparently only approaching talent that used to work for WWE rather than bringing in other talent from Impact or other companies. They're not interested in Jordan Grace, Havoc, Su Yung, or Lady Frost, just talent released by WWE in the last 2 years. Which really dispels the idea that this is a talent exchange partnership as many fans hoped it would be. As the Good Brothers, the current Impact Tag Team Champions, put it on their Talking Shop podcast, which was released a couple of days after the Mickie James announcements, if they think they can make money off you, they'll bring you back. However, there is always that WrestleVotes tweet from January 10th that WWE were trying for an unexpected Forbidden Door entrant in the Men's Rumble. On that same day, Fightful Select noted that they'd heard there were pitches for interesting and big outside names. But that was earlier this month. Fightful haven't had any more on that, neither have WrestleVotes. And the line from Fightful Select now is that WWE are only reaching out to those released over the last 2 years. What do you think the situation is? Because I don't know at this point. Let me know in the comments down below. There's still plenty of room for surprises at the Royal Rumble, however, and PW Insider are reporting that 2 names from NXT that will be at the event are current NXT champion Bron Breakker and the newly renamed Gunther. PW Insider note that it's unknown if both of them will be in the match itself, but they will be backstage. It's interesting to note that Sean Ross Sapp mentioned on his Fightful Select Q&A podcast last Friday that he expects to see Gunther on the main roster sooner rather than later. Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Gunther was given his name change because WWE could not trademark the name Walter, as that's his real name, and he's going to be used on TV more frequently on a weekly basis. He also adds they wanted to make sure he couldn't use his WWE name elsewhere. For what it's worth, WrestlingNews.co are also reporting that Austin Theory is expected to get a lot of shine in this year's Royal Rumble, which would make sense with his ongoing storyline with Vince McMahon. But you know what? We've had so much news over the last few years about wrestlers leaving WWE. What about wrestlers leaving AEW? Over the weekend, Lio Rush announced that his contract with AEW was expiring on February 14th and he would become a free agent. It was a bit of a surprise to many, as Rush had only just signed with AEW last September, and Fightful Select are reporting that he hasn't been seen in AEW backstage since early December. One person they spoke to said that they believe he was planned for something, but it didn't happen. Rush was one of the most outspoken people within AEW following Tony Khan's ill-advised tweet against Big Swole's constructive criticisms of the company. Although he did follow it up a few days later, saying he'd met with Tony Khan about positive changes within AEW for 2022. Rush has since been announced for the second Terminus show and was at last night's GCW event in the Hammerstein Ballroom as a replacement for Jonathan Gresham, who had to miss the show due to COVID reasons. Rush joins Cody Rhodes in the list of names that are either free agents now or are set to become free agents from All Elite Wrestling, and they're not the only two. According to PW Insider, Marco Stunt has not been seen at AEW events as of late, actually last competing last September, and has his contract expiring soon. He hasn't been seen with his Jurassic Express team, even though they're now the tag champions, seemingly being replaced with Christian Cage. Stunt was also at GCW's big show at the Hammerstein Ballroom last night. Joey Janela, who lost to Matt Cardona at last night's GCW event in the most insane match of the evening, will have his contract expired this May. He told Fightful that he's enjoyed his time working with AEW and is open to continue that partnership. Lastly is Brian Cage, who hasn't wrestled for AEW since last October. His wife, Melissa Santos, posted a video last September saying that AEW were misusing Brian Cage and told Chris Van Vliet in December last year that those comments got him a lot of heat backstage in All Elite Wrestling. Her point was that Cage had been a champion in Impact and featured a lot in Lucha Underground, but hadn't really been used much in AEW. Cage wrestled Will Ospreay over the weekend for Warrior Wrestling in what was said to be an excellent match. Afterwards, Ospreay cut a promo saying that man should be on TV every single week. Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful Select notes that there are many contracts coming up in the next month or so in AEW, which won't be publicly announced by the company, but will be allowed to expire. This Saturday isn't just the Royal Rumble, but also our annual Royal Jamble on our livestream reaction show. I'll be defending my Jam That Championship against former champion Pete Quinnell, and several names have announced themselves for the 10-person Jamble match, where the winners will be in the main events of this year's WrestleJamia. So far, Andy Datsun, Social Media Abby, Tempest, SP3 and Sat Inyangi have announced themselves, and our own Forbidden Door is now open, as Dan Layton from Cineworld is joining the fray, as is Angela, and Sullivan Bo Brown from No Rolls Barred. Subscribe to WrestleTalk podcast to make sure you don't miss this Saturday's Royal Jamble.
Back in December, WWE held a huge tryout of indie talent, reportedly lasting a few days, with WWE giving regular trainees at the Performance Center those days off, according to Fightful Select. Hello, Sean. According to the same report, one of the standouts at this tryout was inaugural Ring of Honor Women's Champion Roxy.